St. Lucia, like most countries in the world, is not immune to the effects of human trafficking. The government of St. Lucia has in recent years strengthened its counter-trafficking legislation and organized workshops to edify and empower key groups and institutions on the issues surrounding human trafficking.
So we covered things such as the basic concepts: what is trafficking, who are the victims, who are the traffickers, how do we protect the victims, how do we ensure that the perpetrators are made to pay for their crimes. We looked at
raising awareness in terms of information campaigns. We looked at children in terms of being a special case and the special consideration that should be paid towards minors who are under the age of 18, and in terms of what the UN protocol says about protecting children. It's specifically what the Counter-Trafficking Act in St. Lucia says specifically about looking and caring for children who are victims.
This is indeed an eye-opener because the information we gathered here today is new perhaps to all of us, especially to me. A lot of the things that I took for granted, that a child is missing, perhaps the child is living with a neighbor, or the child is sick. A lot of the information we received today is information that can be used to ensure that children are guarded by their parents, or that we know, as the Ministry of Education, we know where the children are and how we can keep track of them.
I would believe at the end of it all is really a societal issue that has to be addressed. The health of our society is important, not just clinical health, not just physical health, but our social health. And for that reason, I see it as an opportunity to educate our public and for them to see themselves as partners in this response to human trafficking.
We looked specifically at children as a special group because children, by the nature of childhood, it makes them particularly vulnerable, and the impacts of trafficking on children are magnified.
Just being here and learning about this thing, it was really an eye-opener, because for me, I don't think it would be happening in St. Lucia. I just thought it was persons who have a different culture, race, a different country based on what you're seeing on TV, and in St. Lucia now. I would never think it would be happening in St. Lucia.
Some years ago, there was a young lady, I think from the Dominican Republic, and she made the news that she was promised a job in St. Lucia. When she came into St. Lucia, the job that was waiting for is not what she really wanted at all, and her passport, she didn't have a passport. She had no access to her passport. So there are persons who, I suppose, they are recruited overseas with the promise of a lucrative job in St. Lucia, but only when they get to St. Lucia they realize it's not the job that they really want to do.
Human trafficking is a violation of human rights, and therefore the ministry and the government of St. Lucia has enacted laws, the Human Trafficking Act, which seeks to protect the citizens of St. Lucia.
The legislation is there for the protection of everybody. We have the Counter-Trafficking Act of 2010. So we do have legislation already on our books to protect persons against trafficking. What we're doing at the ministry presently is to sensitize police officers on the legislation and how that legislation should be used to investigate and prosecute persons under that act.
In listening and in sharing what we have recognized, there are certain things we have seen as normal, as cultural, that really and truly, if you look at it closely, it's not protecting the rights of persons. It's actually a violation. And as a result of that, what we would have to do is really do a serious education campaign.
Whether or not you have one victim, 10 victims, 50 victims, or no victims is not important. What is important is knowing that this is a possibility, that this could be happening on your shores, and preventing it from happening or preventing it from becoming larger than how it is now, and ensuring that the citizens of your country, residents of your country, are being protected and that their rights are being upheld.
St. Lucia's anti-trafficking legislation is very detailed and offers adequate protection to the victim while imposing stiff penalties on traffickers. However, the law can only be effective if citizens open their eyes and ears to suspected cases of human trafficking and report such cases to the authorities. From the Media and Communications Unit of the Ministry of Health, I am Glenn Simon reporting for Live Up the Show.